I'm Suzi Landolfi, and welcome to Be Crazy Well. Now, why would a therapist say that? Because we all have mental health struggles, even therapists. The good news is we have so much more information about how we can be crazy well. On my podcast, we don't focus on what's wrong with us. We want to know what happened to us. We're going to explore how trauma affected us, both negatively and positively. That's right. I said positively. It's called post-traumatic growth, and it's a real thing. Be Crazy Well will share mental health wellness practices, the newest mental health research, and most importantly, how we all get to create the person we deserve to be and the life we deserve to live. So join the mental health evolution and be crazy well. Okay? Because you know how I work. Like, you know that I just jump in. Like, you two, we just jump in. We're not waiting to be invited.
Yeah.
Am I right about that with you, Josh? You're gonna jump in, right?
Yeah, I've been thinking, like, I've talked to Suzi so many times, but what am I going to talk about? Because, like, I have so many things that I'm like, you don't even know what happened last night. Like, there's so many things that are so important about life.
That sounds like a horror movie. You don't even know what happened last night.
I know. It could be.
It could be. It could be. All right. So, yeah, there's nothing that we will never, like, I'll be on my deathbed going, hey, Josh, one more thing I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
That's how you are and I are, because we're engaged, because we're going to be tired when we lay our head down, because we're going to use up everything we have. We won't be leaving anything in the casket.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's just who you are. And I'll just let everybody know, I am so thrilled to call you a friend, a peer, a mentor. Like, I learned so much from you, Josh, and you're an inspirator. I call that, instead of influencer. I'm not quite sure anybody influences anybody, so I'm not quite sure about that whole title, but an inspirator, because you inspire. Which is, it's kind of like a respirator, but even better. So I should let everybody know who I'm talking to. I'm talking to one of the most dynamic, kind, smart, courageous, and funny members of MVP, because that's where I met you, at Merging Vets and Players. And you are part of the Seattle chapter, because you do much more. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself to everybody that listens to Be Crazy Well, which you do, which is so funny. So you listen. And it's funny, when I first started to do this podcast, you were right there on the list at the top. I was like, oh, okay, got to get Josh. And at the same time, I'm looking to see a flow and what else. And you were having a baby. Like, what's so nice about you, Josh, is that your wife just wasn't having a baby. You were having a baby. You were in it. You were home. You were doing all the stuff that needed to be done other than the pushing.
Like right. Yeah, I'll pass on that.
That's right. So please introduce yourself. And what we need to do is just tell us a little bit about your background in terms of military, and bring us up to speed of where you are now. Then we can talk about anything and everything.
Okay. So thinking about this, I cheated last night. So first I have to tell you a little about last night, and then I'll tell.
Give us your full name first. Give us your full name, so, because I just call you Josh.
Yeah, my name is Josh Wheeldon. I live in Puyallup, Washington. So it's just a little east of Tacoma. So as a veteran advocate, I could say, I last night I hosted a meeting and brought together service providers all over Pierce County, Washington State, and in doing such, I asked everybody their why, and I cheated, right? So I gave my little, I gave my bio a little bit, and then this morning I was thinking, when I was at the gym and I'm driving to work, I'm like, I want to talk about this and this and this. So I'll just start. right?
Just
So
start.
I'm from Washington. I was born 84 miles south of Main Gate, Fort Lewis. So being a Washingtonian and being able to serve in the military, I got to serve right here at home. So rewind to young, just out of high school, Josh. I went to college. I tried what I kind of had a mixed transition from high school. So I wanted to go. I had plans to go be this firefighter paramedic, and then I ended up going to community college. I was going to get in the X-ray tech program. Well, there's some recreational activities that people partake in here in Washington State that I found when I was in college, and I made it about 2 quarters, and yeah, I dropped right on out. So then I found myself working at Home Depot, and I was like I was 20, I was about to turn 21, and it was 2004, and one of the guys there that worked in the lumber department, his name's Harvey, and I hope he listens to this. You know, he's still one of my friends to this day, and he just got back from being in the military, and he's like, "Hey, Josh, you ever thought about like joining the army?" And then a lot of things happened in 2004. So my dad was diagnosed with MS in the spring of 2004, and he was in the National Guard, and he was discharged from the National Guard for having MS. And then, you know, he was in the Navy in the 70s, the National Guard post 9/11, because I'm going to go to Iraq. And then they sent him to Arizona to the border mission where he was diagnosed then. And so I left home. I left my little studio apartment I had, and I joined the Army. I was gonna go into the Marine Corps, and they told me something like, you can't be this job without being an infantry first. And I was like, oh no, it's 2004. I'm not going to be an infantryman in the Marine Corps. I'm sorry. I have many friends that have been, but I'm not going. So I joined the Army as a military police officer. I found myself in going to Fort Leonard, and then I went from there. I went to Korea in 2005, in sending a 21-year-old soldier to Korea. Yeah, it was a party. I was a military police officer, so we had access to the gate. We had our curfew. We kind of were rebels, I'd say. It was funny. Yesterday, I was looking through the pictures that I was trying to find to send you a picture, and I found a picture of me teaching my Katusa how to beer bong. So it's like, hey,
Okay, so
I can teach you how to party.
let me just hang on here for a second. You're military police.
Yeah.
And what's so great about that is you know how to break all the rules and not get
exactly.
caught. Right?
Exactly. But sometimes you get caught and you get in trouble. And then yeah, I made some lifelong friends that I still talk to this day, about weekly, in Korea. Then I came back to the States, and I was calling branch, that's the HR department, calling HR every day. I want out of Korea. I want out of Korea. I want out of Korea. And they asked me where I wanted to go. And being a Washingtonian, I wanted to come home. So I came here to it was at Fort Lewis at the time. Now it's Joint Base Lewis McChord. And we work law enforcement here. And it's just like a normal police officer position in the community. You know, we saw domestic violence, child abuse, murders on post, all kinds of fights, traffic stops, accidents, all the normal thing. And then in early 2007, the troop surge for Iraq happened. And we were told in 70 something odd days that we were going to deploy to Iraq for 18 months. And here we are training. We didn't go train or nothing. We did everything right here where we're stationed. And then we found ourselves heading to Iraq in the end of April, early May, 2007. And I initially went to one spot in Iraq that was between Fallujah and Ramadi. People are familiar with Iraq, the geography. That's been in the Anbar Province. So I found myself in a little base right there, and then I got shifted out to another platoon, or another squad, and I was out in Barwana. So it's on the other side of the river from Haditha. So if you look at the map of Iraq, it's further out west towards Syria. But we ran Iraqi police teams, so we trained and mentored probably 200 or more Iraqi police officers from being in the community. Like we literally took a duffel bag of money and went and bought their house and said, we're turning this into a police station. We hired and trained 200 Iraqi civilians to be police officers. So that it was a long 15 months. And what's crazy is being a part of MVP and meeting all these Marines. We had 3 battalions of Marines that came and went in the same time that I was in the same house, in the same bunk bed. And it's just wild. So I always make fun of them, like, your deployments are nothing, right? Oh, you went on 3 deployments? Cool. That was my 1 deployment. So it's just like a thing to heckle some of the guys about. But
before you continue, one thing I want to say something. You
Yeah.
had an experience of going into another country, a country that many times you didn't know who was the enemy and who was not. You're living with, you're training. I mean, you're literally part of the community.
Mhm.
And you're shoring up what's going to be needed for this community to try to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
You do the same thing now, Josh.
Yep.
You go into community and you train people in well-being in order for them to be able to protect themselves and their family and their community. I'm awestruck by that parallel of who and what you are. You are 100% protector all the time. And so now I can put the two together. Now I know more about the training. I mean, certainly that comes from your childhood as well, but the fact remains is I wanted you to know that. That's exactly what you do.
Yeah. And furthermore, on that same thing, my dad was the community. After he got diagnosed and he really got engaged with Veterans of Foreign War, and they actually combined the 2 towns, combined a post and called it the Cowlitz Valley VFW. So it's funny, if I Google his name, it comes up with like Leon Wheeldon going to city council meetings and representing the Veterans of Foreign War. So it's like documents from 2004 that are online from Cowlitz County council meetings, so.
Well, pretty soon it's going to say Josh Wheeldon. It's got, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. When you know me, I'm always talking about training, childhood training. There's some right there.
Yeah. So back to the story. 2007, 2008, in Iraq. And I don't know, I had a girlfriend when I was there, and I wasted some money and made it about 10 months until I got oh, hey, I'm going to be with some other guy. Right. And so I was like, whatever. You live some, you learn some. And then I have like my friends that I deployed with I'm probably the glue that holds them together. But I just FaceTime. I call them every day. Like since 2007, I've talked to probably a majority of the people that I deployed with in our little squad every day, even if they don't want to talk. A lot of people transition from the military and they don't want anything to do with it. So I will be that thing that they have to remember. I will continue. I just stop by their house and call them, and so the one of my so there was like a rough spot, right, in May, the first part of May 2008. One of our guys didn't make it home, and we went to the FOB to do the little memorial, right? And I found out that my cousin, that was my same age, had overdosed, and he died. So he got released from the state prison and overdosed the night he got released. So like in the same weekend, I had one of my friends die, then my cousin overdosed, and it was like, oh man, this is hell. And then we were in Iraq from May to August. We were still there, so we had to stay in the fight, right? So I'm just lucky that I had my buddies there with me, and we all deal with that differently, but that was a significant moment, kind of dealing with that. And then I came home from Iraq in August of 2008, and I had about my ETS was set, so that's the end of service, right? For December of 09. So I wanted to get out. I wanted to get out of the Army like yesterday. So during that year of being home, a lot of my friends had ended their service. Some of them had a pretty rough deployment in 2005, 2006. When I was in Korea, some of my friends had deployed to Iraq and lost a lot of people. And so you play the game long enough, even if it's 5 years, you want to go, and there's no staying in.
Right.
So I found myself transitioning from the Army, but it was cool. I got in some trouble, got in some fights, did some things, whatever. I took ASAP a couple times, had a little drinking issue for a minute, and I transitioned out of the Army, kind of sporadically. So my first sergeant allowed me to go to. I was doing this welding class with veterans in piping. So it's the local pipe fitters union. It was like their first iteration here at Fort Lewis. They teach soldiers that are transitioning out how to weld. So I was like, hey, this is a way to get out of work. Let me go learn how to weld, and maybe it'll turn into a job. And so then I got onto this part of my transition where I could be on leave, and I wanted out of the Army. And so I was like, I can't go to this class while I'm still in the Army and be successful because I want out. Like yesterday, I don't want to deal with this anymore. So I told my command, like, hey, I could start trans leave. Could I please start trans leave and clear? And I'm going to be done with this class. I'm going to go to college, because they wanted me to move to Vegas or move to DC, or like there was nothing here locally in the trades. So I got out. I filed a VA disability claim shortly after with the VFW, and that, knowing the history of the VA, that was the Niemer era. So the Niemer era of the VA was a lot of Agent Orange presumptives. So we had a lot of a backlog of hundreds of thousands of veterans that didn't ever file a claim before. So my VA claim took 20 months to process. So I didn't have my VA disability benefits when I was out, right? Because I didn't do it. And then it was just like in that era, it just took so long because of the backlog with the presumptive disabilities for Agent Orange. So I was going to school. I found my way to Highline College in Des Moines, Washington. I was going to school, and then my cousin called me out of the blue. He's like, "Hey, your clearance is still good, right?" And I said, "Yeah, clearance is good. Like, you want to go to Afghanistan?" And I was like,
Whoa.
Story is, my friends, all my buddies had then, I got out of the Army. They all deployed to Afghanistan. I don't know the exact month, probably 2000 June or something, 2010, I think, probably roughly when they deployed. So I literally just got out of the Army, and then all my buddies are going to Afghanistan, and it was rough. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm missing out on that. Let me go to Afghanistan as a civilian, and I'm going to protect these guys. I wasn't in the same location, but it was, so I was an MP in the Army in Afghanistan. I worked for a company some people might have heard of. I was a subcontractor for Northrop Grumman. So I ran CRAM systems, so counter rocket artillery mortar systems that detected rockets and mortars, and it was the early warnings. So if we're taking IDF, indirect fire, the it gives you time to seek shelter. So it's like a siren, incoming, incoming, seek shelter. So that's what I operated. So I went down to Alabama, spent too long in Alabama doing training with Northrop, but I had to learn it all, learn all this IT stuff that I didn't have a clue about, and that's why I wasn't on their deployment, so I don't know. But one of my best friends was killed in their deployment, and the date that his anniversary date is tattooed on my wrist because I don't like wearing the black bracelets.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why I was like, what day was it? Oh, it was March 3rd when he was killed. And I remember getting a phone call from one of my friends. And so I was in Alabama with one of my buddies that I was in the Army with. So we kind of got through that together. And I was with a whole bunch of veterans during that time. So fast forward a few months, I got to Afghanistan, and they're not going to put a CRAM operator in a place where they aren't needed. So I found myself on the Pakistan border in the Pesh River Valley. So you might have heard stories of Restrepo, Hanukkah Miracle is right there. And I was at a little FOB called FOB Joyce. It was named after a Marine that had been killed in that valley. So I had a couple radars. We had a team. And there I was working 12-hour shifts for a year. So from August 11 to August 12, I was there, and we were doing radar maintenance, early warn system. So probably every day for the year, I would say between 7 and 8 in the morning and about 3 to 4 in the afternoon, we would take probably 3 to 5 mortar rounds every day.
Wow.
So as a civilian, I was able to kind of learn and integrate so in the Army, I learned the MP way, and that was the way I knew. But as a civilian in the battlefield, I learned how artillery and infantry and Cav Scouts and Special Forces and all of this works together. So I would have rounds coming in, and I would be able to tell our artillery system, hey, we're taking rounds from XYZ coordinates, and they would return fire. So it was like I saw the way the Army operated as a cohesive unit. As a civilian, right? So
Wow.
it was a whole nother level of understanding how the military kind of works together. So I can make fun of people from all these different things because I've watched them in battle as that little fly on the wall.
And I want to say one thing is that all of those experiences, when we get up to where you are now, the office you're sitting in now, all of those experiences have helped make you the superpower that you are today. That's what's amazing to me. And your dedication to your buddies. I call them still every day. It's 16 years later, and you're still calling the ones that you went to 2007. Your dedication to the men and women that you serve with is beyond. It's in the stratosphere of caring and protection. And when we hear all these things you've done, it makes perfect sense. You wanted to get out of the Army, and they said, no, hell, I'm going to, yeah, you guys are going to Afghanistan. I'm going too. Because that was more important to you than what you thought was important about staying home and welding, my pipes together when they burst.
Yeah. And the good part about being the civilian that's integrated is my lovely physique isn't really the kind that likes to stay in accordance with Army regulation according to height and weight, because I'm about 6'5" and I'm a big boy. And so every month getting a tape around your stomach is getting called a fat ass. It's like, I'll find alternative methods how to be here as a member of the team. So yeah, so I went to Afghanistan, came home. Then I was going to school, and it was that transition from civilian. Just to be frank, I made a lot of money, right? I made a lot of money, and I was able to buy a house. And but the transition from being a civilian in the battlefield, where I came home, and then I found myself in college, like immediately after coming home, and I was driving car parts for $10.35 an hour with some Vietnam vets. I was going to school full time, and I found out my ex-wife was pregnant with my oldest son, and I was making $10 an hour delivering car parts, going to college.
And they wonder why there's a rough transition. They wonder why, like,
yeah,
right? Oh,
and so my friend Josh Penner, he's like, "Hey man, I know you figured out." So I met him at college, and he was doing a study about the veteran population and some things, and he goes, "Hey, you want to go work with veterans?" I said, "What? There's like a job where I could do this?" And it turns out that King County is the county that Seattle's in. King County had some human service levy money that the Veteran and Human Service Levy provided outreach to veterans to connect them to organizations. Simple networking is all it was. And I went from $10.35 to $18.40. Right? So I was like, this is crazy. I'm gonna make $40,000 in a year to meet veterans. Are you serious? Like, that's a job? So I in the first year of doing that outreach, I put 20,000 miles on my car, and I drove all over King County, meeting with if you want to meet me in a bar, we could meet in a bar. If you want to meet me at the library, I'm meeting you there. So it was solely to connect veterans to resources. And then, mind you, it was a behavioral health community behavioral health organization that I work for. So we also had a contract for wartime and PTSD trauma through the State Department of Veterans Affairs. So I wasn't only going out to meet with veterans. If I had this feeling that they needed some kind of therapy, we'd do a PCM, we'd knock it out, I'd have them fill out the PCM, and I'd be like, "Oh, hey, here's your score," right? "Hey, have you ever thought about talking to a professional?" And then I would make that connection. So I became certified in mental health first aid, and I became an instructor with mental health first aid through the National Alliance of Behavioral Health. I was able to do that, and then still while going to college, right? And so in 2013, I met some cool people from Amazon. I don't know, right? And Amazon was hiring a military operations program. So in 2013, Amazon was still pretty small. And I was like, how do I get a job with Amazon bringing veteran culture to corporations? So I was like, oh, well, I might as well get a degree in human resource management. So that was my degree, human resource management. Even though I was in behavioral health, I was like, man, I talked to too many social workers that are underpaid, and they went to USC for 6 years and owe $90,000 in debt and all this. Like, I don't want to be a social worker, right? That's what I was thinking. Like, I need to get away from this. So I got my degree in human resource management, and the degree was the ticket into the system. So I was doing all this outreach. I worked in a food bank for a little bit with St. Vincent de Paul, running their veteran program. I got tired of that, of course. Then I went to work for the Paralyzed Veterans of America I was reminded last night it was about 2 weeks that I worked for the PVA in spinal cord injury in Seattle. And then the VA came, and the Veteran Benefit Administration, and I interviewed. It's crazy. I interviewed in July. I didn't get the job, so I took the PVA gig. I finished my degree in October. I reapplied for the job in December. I was offered the job because I now had a bachelor's degree, and that was the ticket into the federal employee system.
And is that where you are now? Where are you sitting now?
Yeah, I'm a federal employee. I work for the Department of Defense now, as the Department of the Army. So I'm a federal employee now. But that was the ticket in at the VA. So when everybody hears this word, the VA, they cringe, or they're like me, and I've had a fine time, right? Yeah. So I was able to work for the Veteran Benefit Administration out of the Seattle Regional Office. And what I worked under the External Affairs Director. So I worked in the public contact team. So when Joe Snuffy veteran would get mad that I'm not getting my disability pay this month, they would come into my office and yell at me,
Yeah.
And I would say, well, that's right. Your bank account's not updated. Oh, you moved and we tried to send you a letter. Oh, you never replied to the letter, so we cut your benefits, right? Like, so it was all those kind of questions to um, people coming in. I've experienced X, Y, and Z. I would connect them
Right.
upstairs. Upstairs, we had on the 10th floor of the regional office, there's the VFW, American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, all the organizations that represent veteran service officers. They're all accredited, and they are co-located in the federal building.
Right.
So that was how I really learned the VA system. And I went out to the tribes. I went out to the jails. I just continued the outreach path, right? I helped the VA kind of develop this strategic outreach plan in 2015 is when we were doing it. And it was awesome. It was, I'm able to go into the community as the VA and show them that, hey, there are veterans like me. And I learned from a guy that's since retired. Phenomenal. He went through the transition process in the 80s after being injured, and then he got on with the VA, and he worked for the VA for many years. And he taught me.
Go ahead, keep going.
He taught me the system, right? So learning how to file a claim, learning how to apply for home loans, education benefits, and all that, and being the face of this organization that people sneer at. But you know what? They don't
sneer at it because they haven't met you.
Yeah.
Because there's not a whole lot of yous in the system.
Yeah. What's the most wild part about it is, like, I always tell people, oh, you don't like the VA? Oh, yeah. Even on the first one, you get that check deposited into your account. You know, like that's my question. Like, oh, let me look at your direct deposits. You know, right. Like, of course, yeah, they suck. But that's the funny part of it. It's the hindsight's 2020.
Well, I want to point out that you went right into the lion's den. You went right into the muck and mire. As someone who loves veterans more than anything other than your children and your wife, I know you, and I know your dedication to serving the men and women is beyond. I mean, it's who you are. It's not what you do. And I'm struck by this idea, Josh, that you go into a system that sometimes doesn't work because it's a monolithic system. And so there are times it doesn't work. There are times that it fails. And then you go, yeah, I'm going in there though, and I'm going to help make it work. I'm going to help change it. And you actually did. The most important thing you just said was, I showed the VA. I just want, okay, that should be the title of your book. I showed the VA that we can go out, outreach and get veterans and then offer them, because there are stories that I've heard where there are some veteran administration centers that are trying to not help give the benefits that are due.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true.
And that definitely not Seattle. The Seattle regional office, the Seattle Veteran Health Administration, they're going above and beyond. And I've had like the best interactions over the last month, right? And this is 13 years after transition, right? So like I see that it's getting better. The system is.
Well, you're helping it make it better. That's the point that we're trying to say. And I want to say something else to all the people who've had a terrible experience. It's not the first time you've had a terrible experience not being cared for. That has to happen to you before for you to be so upset because you're just waiting for it to happen. It's not that you made it happen. It's just that it is going to happen at times, and how we handle it. If I can sit across from someone like you, Josh, when it does happen, I can move through it better. I don't have to be resentful. I don't have to quit. I don't have to leave. I don't have to not get the help. I don't have to give up because I have someone like you helping me through that. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yeah. We're people working together.
I started thinking about it. Like I told you, my friend Josh got me that job there. And then my buddy Ryan, he started this program called Veteran Rights. They do like a pan culture healing, and they go over in Eastern Washington, and it's like it's a spiritual thing. Ryan is one of my great friends, and he introduced me to the VA. Right, he was working for HUD. Since then, he's left HUD, and he started his own this nonprofit that helps veterans. And Ryan was the one that handed me to the VA, and then going from there, the previous Gold Star Mom president of Washington State said, "Hey, Josh, there's this other opportunity." Right, so that's where I'll tell you now, kind of.
Okay.
Uh,
Bring us up to
so I
speed.
rode the bus. I rode the bus to downtown Seattle for 3 years.
Wow.
I rode a
That in
city
and of
bus
itself.
to downtown Seattle for 3 years. Nightmare, right? Um, and then this opportunity at the Warrior Transition Battalion came across my line of sight. So I got help with the resume from a guy that's worked for USA Jobs. He teaches our workshops here on JBLM. He helped me get referred. I came in. I got the job about 5 years ago. It'll be March. I think it's 5 years that I've worked here at the Warrior Transition Battalion. So now, about 2 years ago, we went through a rebranding. Now it's called the Soldier Recovery Unit. So when soldiers come, when soldiers are found unfit, right, whether it's behavioral health, physical health, anything that they could get a P3 profile for, that's that permanent profile that it triggers the IDES process. So the IDES process is an integrated disability evaluation system where they get DOD ratings and VA ratings simultaneously. They separate from the military. Now they have their retirement and their VA benefits at their time of discharge. So I am what's called a transition coordinator. So a transition coordinator is responsible for the career and education domains of the soldier's transition plan. So what I do is connect soldiers to education and training programs, internships, both federal and non-federal. The best part about it is the veteran, I get them to the veteran population. So now I tell every one of the soldiers, so tomorrow I'm going to teach a transition group. I go over the VA. I go over the 3 branches of the VA. I go over the veteran service organizations like Emerging Vets and Players, like the Mission Continues, all these, the VFW, right? I explain kind of in a brief synopsis of what every organization does that I've used personally. And then I go over the career and education portion. There are so many opportunities. JBLM is one of 2 military installations that actually has a workforce development place for soldiers to go and meet with a disabled veteran outreach person. They have this whole career center where they could go and learn about all of the career stuff that's going on. So what I do is I sit in these interdisciplinary meetings with the social worker, with the nurse, with the doctor, the command team, and I kind of shed light on the transition with our soldiers. So I'm specifically responsible for the veteran phase. So that means MRDP, that's the medical readiness decision point, has been met, and the soldier is separating from the Army. So those are my soldiers. The next person that's going to be the veteran. And when I teach my transition group, I let them know that I look at every one of them like we're going to meet at Starbucks or we're going to meet somewhere for an adult beverage. Like I look at them as my friends. You are now entering my realm, and here's this community that you're returning to. So it is that kind of rites of passage, you might say, that says welcome home, like many veterans haven't got before. So that's my job here, and I come to work every day with a smile on my face. And how you said you had a baby, you guys had a baby. So yes, my wife and I had a baby on August 26th. His name is Rhett Stephen Wheeldon, right? A little tank of a guy. As a federal employee, I was able to take 14 weeks of paid paternity leave. So 12 weeks of paid paternity leave, and then I took 2 weeks of leave because who wants to go back to work the week before Christmas? No one. So I've been back at work for about 2 weeks, and it is a joy to be back here. I work hand in hand with active duty, guard, and reserve soldiers. right there with the command team giving advice on this transition. And it is the best job that I've ever had in my nearly 40 years of life.
And you're the best person for the job because you literally pretty much defined it. You may not have created the actual title of the job, but Josh, what you do on a daily basis is you create your life. You do that. You're not just introducing people to resources. They are literally watching you do how to transition from not having a baby to now having a baby.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like, you're doing what it is you're offering to these amazing men and women. And the celebratory nature of your life, like how you live life, you're also teaching that. I mean, I think that all of us who have listened to you now and experience you, those of us that are fortunate enough to meet you in person and be around you, you are an inspirator. I said that earlier. You inspire by how you live. And you are helping to create the person you deserve to be and the life you deserve to live. You're not looking for someone else to do it for you. Great. Listen, I use Social Security. I use all kinds of services. The fact remains is we're in partnership with whoever is helping us. Therefore, I have a responsibility to help do my best in that transition, which happens, by the way, every day of your life. Transition is going to be a huge part of your life forever. Some are going to be bigger and more difficult, and some are not. Wait till that little tank of a guy leaves the house. Wait till your other son, your older son leaves. You're going to go, oh my God, oh, you're sure you need to go. You know, you don't want to stay for a few more years and, you know, eat my mac and cheese. I mean, I think it's important for people to hear that. You have taken responsibility for your life. And you don't do it 100% right all the time. And you make mistakes, but you take that joyously. And therefore, you're walking alongside like these men and women. You go, hey, yeah, I'm doing it too. I've done that, and I'm doing it.
That's what I tell them. Like, I just wish that some of them I could just take them and shake them and say, listen to me, please. Like, listen to me. But I know what they see, right? They see a GS federal employee that's, in their eyes, probably went through a med board or probably got retired, or this guy, he's just a part of the command group that is telling me what I need to do. Oh, he doesn't know me. That I already get their vibe. Like, I already know it.
So now you have a podcast. You have a whole podcast right now. We only got a couple more minutes because I don't want to go over an hour, so they'll listen to it. And you're going to give them the link to this podcast and say, before you make an assumption about who the F I am, right? So that you want to resist everything I offer. Just listen to this podcast. I just want you to know what I went through.
Yeah.
Because you are not an effing hypocrite. You are not. You are doing what it is you're asking them to do. You have done what you're asking them to do. You are offering them the struggle. And you kind of glossed over some of this. Oh, I had a little drinking for a minute and this and that. Yeah. Dude, we're going to have you come back. We're going to go back in and look at all that childhood stuff, all that personal stuff that is also part of your gift.
And knowing you, like, I already, like, yeah, my mom got divorced. Yeah, I was left behind. Yeah, my dad's really my stepdad.
That's right.
Yeah, and I helped my mom get the death benefits for my dad's VA stuff. And, like, I've already, like, thought about all, because I know you and I know your talking points and stuff. So I've actually thought about some of the things, and it was very helpful. And yeah, I weighed 420 pounds a few years ago. You know, I got out of the Army and ate my life. You know, like, there is so much more. But it's awesome when you could build a team of support. And what that looks like is if you're having a bad day, or if something happens, a negativity, that bump in the road where you can get back on track. And that's one thing that I've done with my VFW. We have cigar platoons. That's why kind of getting a time to talk to you is rough, because tonight I have MVP huddle. We have to work out. I have to go to cigar platoon. I have my county meetings. I got this and that. But it's finding time to show somebody you care and really being that community member.
It's everything. It's
Yeah.
everything to me. That's the word.
And
that
that's my loving wife brought my son to football practice last night because yes, we're going for that D1 scholarship and we're in 3rd grade, but we're working on it, right? So it's life's busy, but you have to be passionate in what you do and show people that you care and have that team of support, you know.
Yeah, and I we've run out of time, and that's okay because I know I know where you live, literally. I know, I know all about, well, don't know all about you. I know a lot about you. And first of all, when we first opened Seattle, and I was interim executive director when we opened Seattle. So I saw the people, I saw Cody, I saw Wes, I saw all of you there, and you and I went, oh, this will work as long as Josh stays.
Yeah.
If Josh stays, I don't have to worry about this chapter. And as the chapter has gone through, and I knew you couldn't be the program manager there, at the same time, I just kept saying, if I can keep him in there, if he can stay in that, of course I didn't have to because you're so committed. You have been a linchpin. You've been a connector. You said a welder. That's really a good metaphor for you. But yeah, you are a welder. And you help weld all of us together and community together and people with what they deserve so that they can continue to grow. A benefit should be exactly that. It should be something you can use to improve your life. Not to sit down on, not to lay on the couch with necessarily, although I'm not opposed to that for some time, but it's supposed to help benefit your growth, your life, and what it is that you want to accomplish. So thank you for that.
So
thank you.
the last thought that I want to leave with, right?
Please.
I've listened to Be Crazy Well. So when I was on leave, I was going to the gym every morning at 5 o'clock. This morning I went and I was working out, and I've listened to probably every one of your podcasts, and I've learned more about people that I don't know. Well, I know, but I don't know. Right. And I've learned about a lot of people. And what I want to say is you have my permission to give my contact information to any veteran or any person in the entire country that has this. So I've connected with some of your people on LinkedIn over the phone. You've connected them. If anyone asks, I want to talk to that guy. I want you to make that connection if you can, please.
Oh, that's like the best present I've gotten in so long. I can't even thank you. That is how we're all going to heal. That's how we're going to, help our country, our communities, our families, is that way. But through connection. Connection is everything to me. You know that. And I'm so grateful for you. I want you to hear that. I am so grateful. You are helping and serving so many people. And you weren't in the service, Josh. You are the service. You are a person of service forever. Yep. And so I'll be coming up this summer and hanging out with you. And boy, you don't know this, but boy, tell your son I can throw really good football. Like I'm really good at that. So I'll be there.
All right.
Bless you. Have a wonderful day.
Yes, Suzi.
Josh, you've got everybody's back. That's what we say at MVP. I've got your back. No, he's got everybody's back.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye, honey. Hey, everybody, be crazy well. Calvin Love is the theme song. And Josh, we're going to air this next week. And I want everybody, I'm going to just splash your contact to anybody that wants it. All right?
Yes,
you got it.
All right.
Take care.
Later.